What's up, everyone? Welcome to a little bit later live stream than I wanted to do today, but I realized right before I was supposed to go live that I changed my live streaming setup. Not that any of this matters, but I just spent the last hour having to set up a whole new program and a whole new system, so bear with me if we have any technical issues tonight. I'm hoping we won't, but anyways, another Tuesday Q&A. I'm happy to be back. Tonight we're talking about the Kemper. I pulled my Kemper out today and updated it, started messing around with it, profiled one of my amps, and truth be told, I haven't really played around with the Kemper much at all in the last year. Since moving into the new house, I have really relied mostly on my amps. And any modelers I have been using have mostly been the AxeFx 3, the quad Cortex, and so I felt it was time to kind of revisit the Kemper and look at it through today's lens compared to the modern modelers that are out there and try and figure out, is this still a viable choice in 2022? Should you still buy a Kemper in 2022? Anyways, before we jump into that, though, a quick plug. I always do a discount, a sale on these live streams, and this week, the first 10 people to click the link in the description are going to get 50% off Fretboard Fundamentals, Chords, and Rhythm. So if you don't have that course, you can get it for half off, which is a pretty big deal. We never discount stuff that much. So check the link in the description for that. I don't have anyone moderating tonight, so it's not going to be in the chat. And always, as always, let me know where you are tuning in from. I like knowing that stuff. And this is a Q&A stream. So if you've got questions, you can @ me in the chat. That'll highlight your comment so I can see it more easily. And you can leave a top chat donation if you are feeling so inclined. And I greatly appreciate the support. So, yeah, all right, let's play this profile for a little bit first, and then we'll jump in here. This is my a profile I made today. I was curious. I wanted to profile something through the aux, through the Universal Audio aux box. I've never tried that before, and this is what I got. This is my Plexi behind me here, the Marshall 1959 hand-wired. It's a 2021 model, so brand new amp. And that is the profile, one of two profiles I made of it today. And then, you know, throw a little boost in front of it. I mean, I think that sounds pretty good. You guys can be the judge of that. Threw a little stereo delay in there as well. I mean, it sounds like a Plexi. Does it sound like the most amazing Plexi I've ever heard? No, but I wouldn't be mad if I was to use that on a gig or even some recording sessions. And it cleans up nicely if we, you know, go to the neck pickup here. Let's see. So that is neck pickup all the way up. Roll it down a little bit. It cleans up pretty well. Now, I will say that doesn't clean up in the same way as the real amp. Having played that amp for months and months, I could tell you it doesn't have the same sort of roll-off, the clean roll off, the curve is not quite the same, if that makes any sense. The gain curve is not quite the same. And that is one of the core things about the Kemper, is that when you're profiling something, and I see we got a top chat in here. I'll get to that in just a second, Sean. But the way the Kemper basically works is quite a bit different than something like the Helix or even the Quad Cortex, which is also a profiling device. The Kemper is essentially taking a picture, a tonal picture of what that rig, what that signal chain looked like in that moment in time. And so that's why I've never been a big fan of utilizing any of the front panel controls here, especially the gain, because the gain just doesn't respond at all like the real amp would respond. So check this out. That's not at all what the real Plexi sounds like when you start to push the gain. It's just way too mid-rangey, way too compressed. Because it's trying to guess what would happen if you were adding more gain. Same thing with this 3-band or the 4-band EQ here, bass, middle, treble, and presence. It's essentially imprinting that 4-band EQ on top of the signal here. Quad Cortex works a little bit differently than that. And then things like Helix and AxeFx are not profiles of your rig. Obviously, they're amps that have been modeled by both of those companies respectively, and I think they both respond to input much more like the actual amp does. So Sean, as Cubs fan, has a top chat. What do you think of KT77 tubes when it comes to Marshalls? The Silver Jubilee to me is my all-time Marshall amp. How about you? KT77s are cool, but to me, the ultimate Marshall is that late 60s Plexi, 100-watt Plexi, which is not what you're hearing right now. You're hearing the Kemper's version of that. But my RSA 23, which is under that amp behind me on the shelf, has KT66s in the power section. And they're great. So that sounds pretty good. Here's the other Plexi profile I made. A little bit brighter, a little bit less gain, kind of that sparkly Strat. Probably gonna get demonetized for that. Every time I play Wind Cries Mary, I get blocked. Now that's really nice right there. That's super hi-fi, sparkly, kind of 80s sound. Where is RJ Ronquillo when you need him? So overall, I think that's a nice sound. And the Kemper sort of ushered in this era, this debate of, well, shootouts and how close does it get to the real thing. And I've done those things before. It's really interesting. It's fun to try out. But I've also I'm also of the mind that it really doesn't matter in a lot of cases. Like in this context right now, you guys watching this haven't heard what the original amp that I profiled sounded like, right? You just know either that sounds good or it doesn't sound good. That is either to your taste or it is not to your taste, and that's subjective. Personally, I think that sounds really nice. I like the sparkly high end that this thing has, all that articulation. It would work well with a big washy reverb. Like, let's see if we find kind of a vibey, let's see, legacy reverb. Let's go. Oh God, no. Okay, this is the other thing I don't like about the Kemper is how you have to get through. Let's see, let's do Cirrus reverb. Okay, there we go. So I think that nice sparkly sound is cool. It's either something you dig or it's something you don't dig, but overall, in the right context, it's really, really nice. The other thing about the Kemper that's really interesting, you know, I've spent a lot of time on the road over the past few months with Noah, and most of the gigs we've done have been opening slots for other bands. And a lot of them have been with established, like, commercial country acts. You know, Billy Currington we were just on the road with. And what I'm noticing is, especially with Nashville acts, if guitar players are running a digital rig, more often than not, I see Kempers. I see Kempers more than anything else on stages in substitution of a real amp, quote unquote. Sorry, I'm having to moderate here and try and talk about the stuff. So I think the Kemper has the staying power with, like, gigging pros, a lot of people that are out and touring. They're reliable. They're, at this point, quite ubiquitous. They're everywhere. Lots of people know how to use them. Lots of techs know how to use them, which is really important if you're on a touring gig. They're relatively cost effective. You don't have to spend a ton of money. And when you're touring, a lot of times you have two of them. One of the guitar players in Billy Currington's band was running two Kemper. No, actually it was Billy Currington's rig. He had two rack mount Kempers. Somebody asked when I bought the Kemper. I bought my first Kemper. It was a Kemper rack in 2014, I want to say, 13 or 14. It was pretty early on. And I've had three of them. This is my third one. See, Bruce in the top chat, on Kemper, do you use SPDIF? If so, what clock speed? I don't use SPDIF. Right now I've got the 1/4-inch outs going into the Pinstripe pedals DISO Plus or DISO Plus. It's a stereo DI with a Jensen transformer in it. I've heard really good things about using SPDIF out in that, and I see the appeal of it in that you don't have to go through another layer of conversion, meaning you don't have to go D to A, digital to analog out, and then back in analog to digital in your what is that thing called? The interface, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm going D to A and then A to D. But I'm doing that because A, I didn't have a SPDIF cable. I didn't want to climb in the back of my rack today to make it work. And B, I like getting as many transformers in the signal path as possible, and I like that DISO Plus from Pinstripe. It's got a really, really nice thing to it. So, but like I said, a lot of people have gotten great results out of using the SPDIF out. So that's the thing with the Kemper is it's I think even more than the AxeFx is I think probably its closest competitor in the pro touring world from what I have seen. But I definitely still see more Kempers on the road than any other sort of digital amp solution. And for good reason. I mean, like I said, at this point, they've been around long enough. Lots of people know how to use them. Lots of people are used to playing them, and they're used to hearing them. The Kemper has a sound. Even with all the different profiles and everything, it has its own sort of thing. And I can almost spot one. Like it's almost like a Taylor guitar or something where it kind of doesn't matter what it is or who's playing it. You can pretty much hear that it's a Kemper. At least I feel like I can. That could be total placebo, confirmation bias or whatever. But it still has the advantage of being, I think, one of, if not the most toured modelers in the pro realm. And you still see them in, almost every major studio that's a serious guitar tracking studio has at least one Kemper. I mean, when I did the Muddy Magnolias record in 2016, I played on most of that record, and it was all Kemper. So if you go listen to that record, the Broken People record, most of the guitars on there are my Kemper. Nathaniel Hughes in the top chat, off topic, is it worth it to save for a real Space Echo, or does the Boss RE202 get you close enough for half the cost? That's a really good question, and that's something that I am trying to figure out myself. I love tape echoes. My multi-echo is not doing well right now. It needs to get serviced. But I love RE201s. The original Space Echoes are, I think, one of the most iconic and one of the most special pieces of gear ever. I want to do a video on it, a what is the sound video on it. they've just gotten really, really expensive, like crazy expensive. And so, yeah, I have the pedal. The pedal is on my studio board right now, the 202, and it's fantastic. It sounds great. I don't know that it really captures the sort of imperfections and the vibe of the real thing. But for half the cost, if you're looking for those sounds, yeah, it's great. And what's cool is it takes line level in and instrument level in, so you can use it to mix with. It's great on vocals, which is one of the things that the original RE201 was used for. It's a fantastic reverb and delay for vocals, or echo for vocals. Same thing with drums. So if you've got an interface with a few outputs and you're doing some recording and some mixing, you're recording vocals, you're recording drums or whatever, bust it through the pedal. It sounds fantastic. For those of you just joining, talking about the Kemper tonight, and the first 10 people to follow the link in the description box down below will get 50% off the Fretboard Fundamentals Chords and Rhythm course. We never discount it that much, and I appreciate the support. This is you're basically helping fund the next round of my studio build, which I greatly appreciate. Silver K in the chat says, "Go Benson, a real Echo." Yeah, well, sure, it would be nice to own a Benson Echo Rec too, but I don't have that kind of money. I don't know many people that do have that kind of money. A friend of mine has one, and it's fantastic. And speaking of the Echo Rec, I watched has anybody ever watched those classic album documentaries? They were all done in like 2002, 2003. They're on Amazon right now. If you haven't watched that series, it's unbelievable. Last night I watched the Dark Side of the Moon episode, and that's, I know it's cliche, but that really is one of my favorite records of all time. It was just amazing. So speaking of the dark side, thanks, Alan. So anyways, how does the Kemper stack up against the quad Cortex? So I think right now oh my God, come on, Sony, give me a break. So I think the quad Cortex is the closest thing to the Kemper in terms of features and sound. You can profile your amps with it. You can profile pedals with it, which is super cool. You can't really do that with the Kemper. Amateur. Sorry, Stan. Yeah. Like I said, I was focused. If you're just joining me, we're doing this later than normal tonight because I had to change my streaming setup. So I spent most of the time I would have been live streaming, trying to figure out my new setup. So bear with me tonight, everyone. So how does the Kemper stack up against the quad Cortex? Well, I've been using the quad Cortex a lot recently. I built a little fly rig with it, and I've been using it out on the road, and I'm really impressed with it. Here's my sort of take on it. After playing it for a year and a half, or however long it's been out, they've made some improvements. Neural DSP has made some improvements to the sounds, specifically the effects, the time-based effects, the reverbs, the delays, things like that. I love that you can capture drives and boosts. That is such a great feature, and that's how I've been able to keep that rig so small, because with the quad Cortex, you know, I have it with just a fuzz, with actually just two fuzzes in front of it, because it doesn't capture fuzz very well. And I just went through and captured my favorite drives, or some of my favorite drives and some of my favorite boosts, and I just keep them in the quad Cortex. The other nice thing about it is it functions really well as a Emily, what's up? Hopefully you didn't see my my camera just shit the bed. That's embarrassing. So having it where you can capture all your pedals and everything is super, super cool. With that said, I think the built-in effects, the time-based effects, reverbs, delays, and modulations still kind of suck, specifically compared to the Kemper, which they've been updating for the last 10 or 11 years. The newer reverbs, the newer delays, all the stuff that's in the Kemper now, even the new drives and the fuzzes and everything are super good. I've got one of the octave fuzzes in here, one of the Kemper octave fuzzes. And It sounds cool. It does a thing. That's kind of rad. But that doesn't sound like any of my actual analog octave fuzzes. Even if I put an octave fuzz in front of the Kemper, it's not quite right. Fuzz is still one of those things that I think most of the modeling world hasn't quite nailed, with the exception of the AxeFx. So the Quad Cortex, I think, beats the Kemper in a few areas. If you're looking for something, if you're in the market and you're comparing Quad Cortex to Kemper, which I think is a pretty fair comparison to make, Quad Cortex is a better form factor, fits on a pedal board. It's much more user-friendly with the touchscreen. The build quality is great. I love the encoder, foot switches, and all that stuff. The I/O is great. The ability to capture your overdrives is awesome because it means you can build a smaller pedal board, which is better. Lighter, easy to carry, easier to travel with, less things to go wrong, less patch cables, shorter cable runs. It's just better. With that said, though, I wouldn't rely on its own internal delays and reverbs and modulations. I would still use outboard effects, your whatever, Strymons, your Earthquakers, your Chase Blisses, whatever you got, because they're all going to sound better than what's in the Quad Cortex. The Kemper, I think, works better as sort of its own standalone rig. The form factor sort of, it looks like an amp head. It works like an amp head. Its delays, its reverbs, its effects are way better, but it has that sound that we were talking about earlier, that kind of, I don't know how to describe it, other than it just sounds like a Kemper. It sounds pretty compressed. No matter what you do, they always sound, the profiles pretty much always sound pretty compressed to me. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But I think the profiles, the amp sounds between Quad Cortex and Kemper are neck and neck. Now, Kemper versus the fractal stuff, I think AxeFx FM9, AxeFx 3 beats the Kemper hands down in just about every department. The effects are better. The amp sounds are better. You can't profile your own stuff, but quite frankly, you don't really need to. Everything that comes with the actual unit itself, I've never felt the need to profile one of my own amps because I felt that it would be better than what was in the AxeFx. Downside of the AxeFx stuff is it's the most expensive, and also the user interface, especially on the AxeFx 3, is absolute hot garbage. It sucks. It's so hard to use. You basically, in my opinion, you have to use it with the software editor to get the most out of it. Kemper is much more user-friendly in that respect. So this is another profile I made a few years ago of my friend's matchless Lightning 15. I did a whole series of profiles. These profiles are also available down in the description box if you want. I've had them up available for sale for a few years, but let's go through and find... Yeah, so a friend of mine had an exceptionally good matchless Lightning 15, and he was trying to sell it, but he had gone to a Kemper and wanted me to profile it. Do the amp modelers sound like a crate solid state amp? They can. Yeah. Rhett obviously lost the slide war, so he's trying to win the streaming war. Yeah, I'll have you know that when I was on JHS's show a few months ago and we did a slide off, I believe I won. I believe I was the crowd favorite, so Let's see. Mark, when is Dipped in Tone coming back? Dipped in Tone is coming back very soon. We're taping tomorrow. There may be a very interesting development happening with Dipped in Tone very soon. Not ready to announce anything yet, but you know. Serenity Now is asking, what is this Strat? Sounds great. This is my Shabbat Lynx. Bought this a couple months ago during NAMM, and it is unreal. I've never really been a big Strat guy, but I mean, this one is... This one's really great. It does a thing that I really like a Strat to do, which is, let's go to a, oh man, let's go to a real vibey one here. The bridge pickup is stratty and bright and plucky without being harsh. So many Strat bridge pickups can be harsh and biting. David, thanks for the top chat, man. Do you think Universal Audio made a leap forward in amp modeling with the Dream 65, Ruby, and the Woodrow 55? I think they made a leap forward in form factor. The fact that, I mean, as I understand it, there is quite a bit of DSP happening in those pedals. They sound phenomenal, especially the Ruby is my favorite, and the Dream is my favorite. The Woodrow is amazing, but most people don't like the Woodrow. They think it sounds farty and spitty and gross, which it does. But the thing is, a real 55 or 57 Tweed Deluxe sounds farty and spitty and gross. So it does what it's supposed to do. The Woodrow doesn't suck. I've seen a lot of people talk about that online. Like, oh, the Woodrow sucks. No, it sounds like a Tweed amp, like a Tweed Deluxe. And sometimes, in the right context, exactly what you need is farty and spitty and gross. You know? But yeah, I do think they made a step forward in the form factor. The fact that you can get that in a pedal board friendly package with that many options, with the Bluetooth and the ability to pair it to your phone and make presets and save presets and all that stuff, it's really great, man. And my next live touring board will probably have one of those on it, so that I can, I want whatever my next live board is, whatever the next iteration of my live board to be, I want it to be able to easily switch between going ampless and going DI and going into the front of any one of my amps. I don't know what exactly that's going to look like yet, but that's kind of the idea. Also, if you're just joining us, we have a few coupon codes left. You can get 50% off the Chords and Rhythm guitar course via the link in the description box down below. So please do check that out. How do you like the Kemper versus QC overall? So we were talking about that a second ago, and I think that's what we were talking about before my camera shit the bed. Overall, at this point, and to answer the sort of the question of this stream, is the Kemper still worth it in 2022? For me, no. For me, I would choose, depending on my budget, I would choose AxeFx 3 first, Quad Cortex second. Quad Cortex and Helix, I think, are neck and neck for me. The Helix effects are phenomenal. It just takes a little bit more work to get a Helix to sound natural, to get a Helix to sound like an amp. And then I personally would put the Kemper at the bottom of the list. I think it's the most outdated. It's a little long in the tooth. The user interface is okay, you know, with the pots and everything. It kind of makes sense especially if you're coming from an amp or anything like that, but especially compared to Quad Cortex and Helix, the user interface is it's just outdated. And that's the thing, is with these modelers with these digital rigs, user interface is a big thing, because you're not just interacting with input, gain, and master volume in a 3-band EQ like you are on a Marshall or a Fender or whatever. You are essentially, you need to be able to build an entire rig and interface with an entire rig right here on the front panel without having to use the computer, the software editor. That's my biggest gripe with AxeFx. It's such a pain in the ass. And I've gotten, when I made that AxeFx video earlier this year, I got so much hate from people who were like, well, I can use the AxeFx just fine. It's like, yeah, that's great. But for someone like me, the way I interact with things, the way I learn things, the AxeFx just doesn't work. I have to use it with the software editor. And that's a big deal breaker for me. It's why I don't really take it out live, is because, I don't want to be in a situation where I have to fix something, to have to fix a problem with a preset and have to use the front panel of that thing. It absolutely sucks. But yeah, is the Kemper still worth it in 2022? That's a subjective thing. To me, I think I would choose AxeFx Quad Cortex or Helix over the Kemper at this point. With that said, though, like I was saying earlier, it's still, you still see the Kemper on stages of all sizes all over the world. I think it's still holding on to its position as the industry standard modeling amp for touring professionals. I don't think it'll always stay that way. And I think AxeFx 3 and FM9 and things like that are close on its heels. See here. Jason says he would really like a Kemper. Vertex in the chat. Is it true that in some states it's illegal to use a right angle 1/4-inch jack into a Strat style guitar? If it is true, it's not illegal in the state of Georgia. It's called Freedom. Look it up. Yeah, so this is a preset that I made in like 2017, 2018 or something. I was doing a lot of church gigs at the time, could you tell? Guitarman45 asks, what about the Helix? How does the Helix compare to the Kemper? Well, I think the Helix beats the Kemper in a few ways. User interface and form factor. The Helix floor, I should point out, not the rack. I like the Helix floor. I like that it's sort of its own self-contained rig. It makes a great rig for traveling, especially if you're flying. You get that Helix backpack, and it's all just kind of in one thing. I think the effects in Helix are... It's tough now. When Helix first came out, I think the Line 6 effects were better than the Kemper, but now Kemper has made some pretty big step forwards in its onboard effects, so that might be a bit of a wash. Where Kemper beats Helix is the ability to profile amps, to download third-party profiles of amps that you don't have access to, or amps that aren't in Helix. The thing with Helix is you are using whatever amps that Line 6 decides to put into the unit, which is a pretty great list. And honestly, I think you should be able to cover all your bases with the Helix amps. With that said, though, like I've said before, I think the stock presets that come with the Line 6 stuff are not great. I think to get a Helix to sound good, you have to have a pretty good understanding of real amps and how real amps work, and how to dial in the Helix to get the most amp-like sound. The thing with the Kemper is you're dealing with a real amp and then you're just capturing that thing. So it's kind of a choice of workflow. What do you want to do? Do you want to sit and mess with presets and try and dial in something from scratch? Or do you want to profile an amp that you know that you have and that you love, try and capture that as best you can, and then go from there? No wrong answer, but something to consider. So, yeah. Let's check out some of these tweed, some of my tweed sounds here. Steven's asking, what did the Quad Cortex go through on my live gigs? I was using it just as a pedal board. The first few gigs we did in Texas, I backlined a matchless DC30, which was unreal. God, that amp is so good. I will own one of those amps one day. Let me see here. Let me find a. There we go. There's a good tweet sound. Turn that input gain down a little bit. But the thing is, with Noah's band, with Good Trouble, I'm not using that much in the way of effects. I'm using the amp a lot. I'm relying on the amp breaking up a lot. I'm riding my volume knob. And I'm using fuzz, using a boost. And then I use a lot of tremolo and then just a basic delay. So sort of a long analog delay and then a short slapback. And that's basically all I use on Noah's gig. Now, when I was touring with Jesse Wilson, that was a completely different thing. The sounds that I had to get on that gig were really intensive, lots of modulation, phaser, analog delays, lots of interesting reverbs. I mean, it took me weeks to get those sounds dialed in for her tours. But that's what was on the record. So it was just a different workflow. I really love playing in Good Trouble because it's a guitar band, it's guitar driven music, and it's really just meat and potatoes guitar stuff. You know, like this sound, I could play an entire gig with Noah with just this sound. Kick a tremolo on and off. Kick a tremolo on and off, maybe some slapback. And I could get through a whole gig. Ivan, is a modeler a good option for a home practice rig? I think it wouldn't annoy your flatmates at all. It's a great option for that. There's lots of good options for home practice rigs now. You can get like a load box for your amp, something like Captor X or Aux. You can get a modeler. You can get just an amp in a box pedal like Iridium or one of the UA pedals or one of the 2-Notes pedals. There's so many great options now for being able to play stuff at home through headphones or through some speakers, and even be able to play your own amps at home through that stuff, which is cool. Yeah, I think that sounds good, man. I mean, how close is it to the real amp? I can't tell you. I mean, I profiled this 2 years ago. I don't remember what the real amp sounded like in the room in that moment. I just know that sounds good. And so that's the whole thing, man. If it sounds good, it is good. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if you bought a Kemper in 2022, despite what I think about it or what anybody else thinks about it. If it's the right thing for you and it makes you happy to play guitar, or it fills a need that you have as a guitar player, then it's worth it. And so that's the thing with this whole discussion of, well, is such and such worth it? Is, you know, is this pedal worth it? Is this amp worth it? All I can do is answer, all anyone can do is answer from their own perspective. Yeah, that sounds great. T. Acreage, what's the best way to play a tube amp through headphones? Some kind of reactive load box. Whether that's SIR reactive load, the IR loader, whether that's the... is the Fryette Power Station a reactive load? Aux, Captor X, something that's going to take your amp, and the reactive load part is important because that's going to be what as closely mimics a real speaker as possible. Oh yeah, Boss tube amp expander, yeah, same thing. There's so many good options now, man. Beard and Coleman, thank you, man. What are the go-to cabs I use in the aux? Depends on the amp. So, you know, if we go back to this Marshall profile I made today, I profiled it through the aux, and I'm using the big what is it, the Greenback 412 cab. It's not pushed. What is it called again? I can't remember. Greenback cab. And then I really love the AC30 cab with the silver bells. I use that, silver bulldogs. I use that all the time for stuff. And then the Two Rock cab that they have in there is another go-to one of mine. Yeah. Does it react the same way? Does the Kemper react the same way? Yes and no. In this setting, I think there are some subtle differences between how this is reacting and how the actual amp would react. But it sounds good. I think that sounds good. Like in the right context, that would work. You know? Put on that delay again. When's the next studio build video coming out? Whenever I get it edited. It's a huge job editing those videos. It takes days and days. But yeah. F-stoppers. Yeah, this is still live. We're barely hanging on. Oh, Manny was got a good question here. So of all these, what's the best choice if you play with lots of effects? Quad Cortex is great if you're using outboard effects, pedals that you already have, and you're patching them into the effects loops of the Quad Cortex. It's great. AxeFx is fantastic if you just want an all-in-one in-the-box solution. That still has tons of really good I/O that you can still patch in outboard effects and do all kinds of crazy routing. It's got tons of DSP on board. I I've said it before, I still stand by it. I think AxeFx is the best modeler. That doesn't mean it's the right modeler for you. I just think it's the most well-rounded and offers all the best sounds, the best effects, the best I/O, even though it has the worst user interface. It's also the most expensive, and it's cost prohibitive for a lot of people. So Helix, I think, is another really great option if you use a lot of effects, because it has a ton of effects built in, and they're all pretty damn good. Like, they're, especially some of their drives, some of their modulations are really, really, really great. So, yeah, it's a lot to unpack here. All right, we'll take a couple more questions here, and then I'm going to go eat dinner. Don't forget it. You can get 50% off. There's only a few of these coupons left. 50% off Chords and Rhythm via the link in the description box below. Joey is asking, why of all the guitars is the Theodore getting the axe? Yeah, so if you don't know, I'm selling the Theodore. It's listed on Reverb right now. So here's the deal. It's a great guitar. It's super cool. I love the story of it. I need to start thinning the herd, and there is something that came up that is really special, and I need to move some stuff in order to get. It's a guitar. I don't know. I'm not going to talk about it yet until I can get it. And I already have a great P90 guitar. I have my Novo. And the Theodore, anytime I would go for a P90 guitar, I'm going to grab the Novo over the Theodore, basically. So, but it's a super cool guitar. It's collectible. If you're interested in it, it's on Reverb. Is the Kemper good with bass guitar? It's great with bass. For a long time, I was only tracking bass for my videos through the Kemper. It's really, really good for bass. Are we going to see you playing a V? No comment. What studio console did you decide on? I have not decided on one yet. I probably won't. We won't be doing that until next year, probably. That's on the list of things that have to get done for the studio. Currently, that's near the bottom. I did not get a Rick Beato signature, but yeah, congrats to Rick on his new signature. It's fantastic. I've played his many times. Both the original and the signature. And the original, the yellow one that his signature is based off of, was the go-to guitar when we were working there in the studio when we were recording stuff. I mean, I think still it's the best sounding guitar in his studio. Even with all the stuff he's got now. So yeah, congrats. I think they sold out of them today, which is crazy. Get a vintage Neve. Rex, that would be nice. I don't think I can afford that, but that would be nice. Where am I selling on Reverb? Yeah, it's on Reverb. Eric, any update on the Port City Signature amp? Thanks for all the great content. Yeah, it's done. The head is done. waiting on the cab to get done, and then I'll go up and I'll play it for the final time, kind of go through the final process if anything needs to change. When I went and checked it out originally a few months ago, it was already super, super close. I just needed a few things changed on it. Namely, I wanted more gain. So with the volume all the way up, I wanted like 10% more grit, more drive. And I think Daniel was able to get that out of it, which I'm super excited to check out. Man, I'm really glad to see the positive response that the studio build video got. That makes me really happy. I was actually quite nervous to put that video out because, you know, this is not a studio channel. This is a guitar channel, and I know it's a departure from what I normally do. And on YouTube, that's a treacherous game to play, to deviate from your normal course of content. But the response has been just unbelievable. I could not be happier with how the video came out and how well you guys received it. It makes me so happy. It makes me so excited to know that people actually want to see more stuff about the studio, because this is a passion project of mine. It's something I've wanted to do since I was a teenager, basically. Wanted to make records, wanted to make music, produce music, write music, and have a space to do it. And yeah, I mean, we're doing it. So when is episode 2 of the build? Soon. Hopefully in the next 2 weeks. We'll see. I got to get to editing on it. It's so much footage. It is hours and hours and hours of footage to go through. But the next video I think will be exciting. The next video is going to get us up to the point where we are now, which is all of the structural work done, all the framing done. You'll get to see my new friend Shane Whitty and his crew come down from Kentucky and absolutely save my ass. They saved the day. The reason the project stalled for a year was we couldn't find anybody to come in and do the structural work that needed to be done. I mean, I had 6 contractors all come down and look. And some guys told me they would do the work and then they bailed. Other guys just weren't interested because as soon as they heard that they had to take input from me and from Jimmy, they were just out, because a lot of the contractors around here, all they want to do is build spec homes and build, you know, finished basements for rich people. And as soon as we started talking about angled walls and the ceiling line being kind of funky, and this is why we have to do things this way, I could just watch these guys' eyes glaze over and say like, oh no, this is going to be a pain in the ass. So it stalled for almost a year. And, you know, luckily Shane and his crew showed up and showed out, man. I mean, they just absolutely killed it. They're full measure construction, and they're doing work. So if in this field now, so if you have you need some studio space built or anything like that, I mean, I'm going to have their information in the next video for people to reach out to and, you know, hopefully give them some business, because they absolutely deserve it. You could not find a better group of guys than Shane and his crew at Full Measure. I mean, they're the hardest working, most humble dudes. They came down here and just busted their asses for a week to get us back on track. I will forever be grateful. Forever be grateful to Shane Whitty and his crew of guys. It's yeah. So that'll be the next episode. What kind of console are you looking to get? So there's a few options. You know, I'm right now it's still early stages, and there's a lot of things to consider. Buying a console is not like buying a guitar or buying an amp. It's honestly, it's a scary process, and I'm not even that deep into it yet. It's a big process. It's a time-consuming process. It's yeah. So right now my requirements are I want something that's 32 channels. Ideally would be 32. Would take 24. And don't really need automation. Don't need, I just want a really good tracking console primarily. We probably will be mixing on it as well, but primarily I want something that's colorful, that has a lot of vibe and has a sound. And I want the sound of that console to match the sound of the room and what I want to do. And so for me, right now Neve is at the top of my list. That's a big deal. It's a big boy board. We'll see. I don't know if that's going to be possible. But that's kind of what I'm angling for at the moment. But yeah, there's lots of amazing consoles out there, and I'm sure that whatever ends up down in that room will be loved and used, and hopefully lots of people will hear and enjoy the sounds that go through that desk. So, all right. With that, I got to go downstairs. I got to eat dinner. It's 9:45 my time. Appreciate y'all hanging out. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but like I said, this ain't JHS. So, yeah, hopefully we'll catch you guys on next week for another Tuesday Q&A, and see y'all real soon. Thanks.